family. They love the family, they love the movies.
Hello and welcome to Film with Family. I'm Austin.
And I'm Zach.
And we are two cousins who like to talk about tomfoolery. Yes, we are in our second episode of our mini-series we are calling the Trifecta of Timeless Tomfoolery. 3 comedy classics.
Yes, we're winding back the clock to see Some Like It Hot.
Way back to 1959. And joining us for this episode is my godfather, Jim Martin.
Hi, guys. Aloha.
Hi, Jim. Nice to meet you. This is my first time being introduced to you, so it's great to see you.
Indeed. Great to see you too, Zach.
Yeah. Jim, I don't know if you know this, but Zach has actually graced your abode on the Big Island.
Oh, I didn't even no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it was back in 2018. I was hanging out with Austin's dad, Glenn Pruett, and my buddy's got a spot that's open for us. We can crash there for a bit. And I'm like, I'm game. And it was amazing. Got to hang out in the pool. We actually we filmed Surge 4, I think. We filmed one of the Surge movies at your place for a little bit. It was a great time.
Well, I'm glad you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it. Out in Hawaii, the Big Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Jim, that's where you are right now?
That is where I am right now. I'm on the north. I'm actually not at my house. I'm at a friend's ranch on the north face of Mauna Kea. We're about 3,000 feet up. Lots of wet weather. Very nice. Very nice. Very tropical.
Beautiful.
Nice. How long have you been living in Hawaii for?
10 years.
Nice.
Wow.
And you still split your time between there and Santa Monica?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, part-time here. I'm mostly here, actually. I call this my residence. The dogs are here. I'm here. So that's kind of where home is.
So to acquaint our listeners, as I said, Jim, you are my godfather.
Yeah, how does that work? I don't know. I don't have a godfather. What is it?
I was gonna ask, like, what do you know what a godfather is?
Yeah, well, I think in the old days it was a church thing. I know Catholics have them, and when you're baptized, you get a godparent. And my mother told me that in the case that my parents would die, the godparents would take over. So I was always kind of terrified that would happen because I didn't know my godparents. So that's sort of what I thought the deal was, but it really wasn't. I think your parents just wanted to acknowledge that we were friends, and that was it, really. Hey, I've given you some money, haven't I?
Yeah. Birthday cards,
I think a godfather is a bit of a bankroll, for on the side, just in case.
And I never invited you for a cup of coffee. I mean, our relationship has been great. I've been going out to California many times, staying with you in Santa Monica back when I was in my college days. I was thinking about going to UCLA. I remember you taking me all around Hollywood.
Yeah.
In the convertible, listening to I Love LA, Randy Newman.
Very, very corny LA Godfather thing to do, believe me.
No, it was amazing. I was like, wow. I mean, like, I feel like Billy Wilder, we'll talk a lot about him, but he was such a magnate of those Hollywood sets. And so I remember you just like driving me around and like, oh, there's the Paramount lot and there's the MGM lot. And, that's where a lot of Some Like It Hot was filmed. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's right. They filmed it at the old Goldwyn Studios, which I don't think is there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it was right near the Formosa Cafe. Do you guys know what the Formosa was?
No.
It's still there, not in the way that it used to be. It was a was a bar restaurant, basically all red for the Formosa Oriental theme, right? So everything had to be red. And had kind of weird lighting. And anyway, it was very kitschy when I was in college to go there and kind of hang out because it was all the old faded Hollywood. But in the old days, it was really quite something because it was right around the corner from the Goldwyn lot. And apparently, I heard an interview with Tony Curtis, and he talked about them hanging out there while they were doing the show, while they were doing the movie. So there you go.
Awesome.
Nice.
You kind of introduced me to the LA life, and then I've gone out to Hawaii a few times and stayed with you and your partner Terry up in Big Island, which is where my dad is now. And you are the reason that he is there.
That's very true. If I was not here, I do not think he would be here.
He went out there when you first got when you got that house. He was kind of house sitting for you, and he was like, I think I'm not gonna leave.
I think he had that idea before he got here, actually.
I'm just curious what got you out to Hawaii. Like, why did you guys choose to stay in Hawaii?
That's kind of two questions: how we got here and why did we choose to stay. We got here because I think we really wanted to buy another piece of property out, and we were looking outside of the United States. We looked in Mexico. I thought about Scotland. I think Terry mentioned we thought about London, about buying a flat in London. And then we were going back. Terry was going back and forth between LA and Asia at least twice a year. And so he started stopping in Hawaii, and I would go with him, and then I'd go back to work. And he would go on to Asia, or I'd meet him on his way back. So we kind of started hanging out in Hawaii once a year, twice a year. And we went to the different islands and started to think, hey, we could do this. This would be better. We're buying in the United States. It's infinitely easier than buying abroad, a little safer. And we found the Big Island, which is pretty remote. I mean, it's, we're out in the middle Pacific. And so you feel like you're really quite a ways away. We like that. And so we started looking to move here, or buy a property here. The moving wasn't in the picture at that point. And then we bought some property. We tried to build a house several different times, and it never worked. And then we found the house that we're in now, and we bought it. And that was about 11 years ago now. And then I moved with the dogs 10 years ago, and that's how we got here. And the reason I stay is because I really like it. I'm retired, and the lifestyle here is very easy for a retired person. Older people in Hawaiian culture are a little more venerated than they are in the mainland. So it's a good place to be an older guy. And I like the lifestyle. It's very, we move kind of slow here. It's the tropics. So the weather's nice pretty much all the time. It just works for me. And
what's not to like,
Yeah, for sure. People, Terry gets a little tired of the isolation because we are a long way away from anywhere. The Hawaiian Islands are the most remote place on the earth. We're farther away from anywhere than anybody else is. So, they need more contact. They need more urban life. But, I get to go over. I visited you in Chicago. And when I do, I go to the museums. I try to go to go out to the theater, go see stuff, get my culture fix. And then I come back and I'm fine. I don't need it as much as I used to when I was younger.
Yeah. I'm curious how you got to know Austin's parents. What's the story there?
Yeah, well, I was a graduate student at the University of Michigan, and Austin's dad, Glenn, showed up. He was not in school, but he started auditioning for plays, and he and I got cast in a play together. And that's how I got to know him. And then I cast him in play. I was a director, and I cast him in plays. And we did, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 things together. And he did stuff in the department, but then he moved away. But our friendship got really, really solidified right in the beginning. We were really good friends right from the start, from the get-go. And we've remained friends for, good God, I haven't even thought about this, 45 years, something like that. Long time. So it was theater. It was acting and theater showbiz that got us together. And then he married Lizzie, and she was an actress, and we had a lot in common. So
Nice.
I think I'd left, but I came back for some reasons. I had to go back to Detroit, and so I would see Austin when he was a baby.
Do you remember some of the plays you did together?
Yeah, we did a play called where I met Glenn was a play called Loot, Loot by Joe Orton, and we played gay lovers who are crooks.
That's great.
You don't know Joe Orton? He's completely irreverent, disgusting, and awful, and terrific. He's just got he took no prisoners. He took no prisoners. And then we did a play called, then I directed Glenn in a play called When You Come in Back, Red Rider. And it was a kind of a big production for both of us. I was kind of at beginning to be at the top of my directing game as a young man. And your dad, Glenn, he was really, really good. He was great. He was chomping at the bit. And it was a really good production of a play that was quite exciting at the time. At the time, as a young director, I was trying to direct in all different kind of genres of plays. So I was trying to do musicals. I was trying to do operas. This play was like a thriller. It's about a guy who comes into a gas station, little cafe, and then holds everybody hostage and, fucks with their psyche and then goes away. And so it's all that kind of genre thing. And I just wanted to give myself a shot at it. And it was fun. It was great. It was a lot of cool. It was fun. And then I think that he did other plays that I saw. Bingo, where he played William Shakespeare, he was very good. Your dad was a really good actor. I'm disappointed that he doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was glad I got to see him be Oscar Wilde for that one-man show at Planet Ant. That was an incredible performance.
Yeah. He's really good, really fine actor. It's too bad. Anyway.
Yeah, he's kind of written it off, but the last time I saw him on stage actually was kind of a full circle moment for me. He did Christmas Carol again at the Meadowbrook, yes, in Detroit, and he played Jacob Marley again, and so I think that was the last time I saw him on stage, which was pretty cool.
It's your first thing, right?
Yeah, I think I was on stage for Christmas Carol when I was a baby. Maybe I think just in my mom's arms or something like that. But yeah, there's some great photos of the whole family together with me in like the full Charles Dickens outfit. Since we're talking about my folks, do you remember the moment that they asked you to be my godfather? Do you remember? What's the story there?
I do. They must have called me on the phone because I was in Texas and they were in Detroit. And so they would called me and said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I'd say, "Oh yeah, of course I'll do it." Yeah. About the same time, other friends of mine had asked me to be godfather to their child also. So I have two godsons.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have competition. You do. But
well, as long as I can still come to Hawaii and stay with you at your beautiful estate, I'm fine.
You can.
Let's talk about this movie. Some Like It Hot, 1959, Billy Wilder, Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, you guys Billy Wilder fans?
I love Billy Wilder. Double Indemnity and Sunset Boulevard have been two of my all-time favorite films for the longest time. I've seen this movie a long time ago, but it never really registered with me as like a favorite. I kind of like Billy Wilder's more noir and
dramatic.
more like dramatic stuff. I do like his farces, to a degree, just because the dialogue is so rapid paced and it's just a feat of screenwriting. It's just incredible the way that he's able to like keep things moving at a clip, because he writes and directs and produces a lot of his own work. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I feel like I watched most of his movies in college. Like it was like for my film classes, like we got assigned, or we would just watch in class. We'd watch Double Indemnity, we'd watch The Apartment. and those were both great. I remember watching Some Like It Hot in high school. I think either my mom or dad put it on for me because it's like this is a classic. I've seen Sunset Boulevard as well, but I think those are the only ones I've seen. So like kind of like the big four I've seen, but I haven't delved into his more obscure movies. But he's great.
What about you, Jim? What's your history with him?
Oh, all right. My history. Well, so I grew up in Santa Monica, right, which is right next to Los Angeles, which is right next to which is where Hollywood is. So I grew up and in Santa Monica, they had 3 or 4 different theaters, really nice, old like 1930s movie houses. And in 1959, I was 8 years old. My birthday's in September. So I was probably 8 years old at the time. And my mom and dad took me to see Some Like It Hot. I'm pretty sure at the Criterion Theater, which is unfortunately, sadly, no longer there. But nevertheless. And so I remember seeing this movie with my mom and my dad in the movie theater when it first came out. And I remember all three of us laughing, just busting a gut, laughing way out loud. And the whole audience was in hysteria, just madness. And the whole thing was kind of mad to watch because of the dressing up and Marilyn Monroe and gangsters and the whole thing, just the whole deal, and all these girls and blah, blah, blah. And it was just kind of it completely swept me off my feet. And it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen in my life. And my parents loved it too. So there was that. And there was this whole thing, speaking of films of the family. So it started with me with a real bonding experience with my mom and dad when I was, pretty young, still pretty young. Then I didn't see the movie for probably until I was in college, like you guys. But then once I saw it again, I went, oh my God, this is unbelievably good. And I started to see it every time that I could. And now as an adult, I watch it every year at least once. I think personally that it's the greatest film comedy ever made. I keep trying to think of ones that are better. I can think of ones that I think are, pretty damn good, but frankly, I think it's a faultless piece of art.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's 22nd on the AFI list of top 100 films of all time, or American films of all time.
What do you know what comedy comes before it on that list? You don't.
Do you?
No,
No, I think it is probably the top comedy.
maybe Annie Hall.
Maybe Dumb and Dumber.
So back to your question, that's how I know it. And so I've been a fan I'm an unabashed fan of the film. I just think it's a perfect work of art. And I just saw it again 2 nights ago, and I feel the same way. I laugh out loud every time I see it. The construction of it to me is masterful. It's just, the writing is impeccable. The story moves at a clip that it's fabulous. And when it needs to slow down, it does. I believe the love affairs. I buy into the goofy gangsters, and making it a life or death situation makes the whole thing work enormously well.
Yeah. To answer your question, so at number 18 is The General.
Oh, well, okay.
Is that Buster Keaton?
Yeah, that's Buster.
Yeah, Buster Keaton. And then at number 11 is City Lights, which is kind of a comedy drama, Charlie Chaplin. Yeah. And actually, they've got Sunset Boulevard, the other Billy Wilder film from 1950, at 16.
Wow.
Double Indemnity is at 29 as well. So a lot of Billy Wilder on this top 100 list.
The Apartment, it's got to be up there somewhere.
Number 80.
There you go.
And Annie Hall's at 35.
Oh, ouch. Poor Woody.
Yeah, poor Woody. Oh no. But we got Toy Story at number 99.
Ooh.
We just did Toy Story.
Yeah, made the cut. That's good. So is The Apartment your second favorite Billy Wilder movie, Jim, or what?
Yeah. I'm a mid-career Billy Wilder guy, and I love those 2 movies a lot.
Both Jack
Yeah.
Lemmon. Two
Yes,
lemons.
they are. Yeah. He was at the top of his game. He was in his early 30s, blah blah, when he made both movies, and he was just at the top of his game. He was terrific, I think. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Jack Lemmon from Glengarry Glen Ross and The Odd Couple with Walter Matthau. But do you know more about Jack Lemmon? Do you have more of a history about him?
He was a Hollywood guy, just like Tony Curtis. They were these kind of young actors that there was a whole stable of them that got into Hollywood and were sort of making all the movies. They just this group of them, and he was kind of the comedian, not totally, but he was a comedian. He got really popular after Some Like It Hot skyrocketed him, and then he took kind of a turned the corner with The Apartment. He was much more serious, and so the world opened up for him, and he could do whatever he wanted to do.
Right.
He and Curtis did another film together called The Great Race, which you guys probably don't know, but it was one
No.
of these 1960s sort of nostalgia things. So it was around the world in 80 days, a race to get from one place to another. And Jack Lemmon plays the bad guy, and he's like a classic villain. And Tony Curtis plays the good guy, and he's dressed in white all the time, and he never gets dirty, blah, blah, blah. Kind of corny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great in this. And yeah, I think that he's a great actor. I know that there's a Simpsons character that's based off of him, Gil. Gil.
Oh, he's
No.
supposed to be a Jack Lemmon type.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
No, please, you gotta help old Gil. What's it gonna take to keep you on the phone? You dance for you, but you wouldn't even see it. All right, I'm dancing.
What do you know about Tony Curtis?
See, he and Marilyn Monroe were contemporaries. They they were kind of all the same age. They all kind of started. She might be a little older than they were, a little bit, not much. So they were all kind of hopping around at the same time. And he did Spartacus. So he did some of the, Roman, take off your clothes movies. These guys had to walk around with, their thighs exposed. And I've seen the list of his filmography, and it's enormous. He acted for just forever and ever and ever. He knew everybody in Hollywood. He was a real Hollywood player. Yeah, that's what I know about. I think he's quite a good actor myself. Superb in this film. I think he gets a little short shrift because of Marilyn and Jack are kind of they just have more tinkle about them. But if you look at his performance really carefully, it's really multi-layered. He's kind of the glue that holds the story together. And I think he's underrated and really, really good in this film.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I feel like I buy him more as a woman. He like the voice
Yes.
he's doing, and I don't know, his look. He just looks like a middle-aged woman, and I don't know, Jack Lemmon doesn't pull off the cross-dressing as well as Curtis does, I don't think.
Yeah, Curtis kind of has those like natural like eyeliner eyes. Like his eyes just like they have like a natural eyeliner to them.
The way he purses his lips too.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
really good.
But actually I heard that he couldn't pull off the voice and they had to dub it in post because
Yeah.
I mean he's got a real like low I'm a Tony Curtis, like he's like I can't imagine that he would be able to pull off that high falsetto, and he didn't, so they dubbed it in. Yeah,
Like he redubbed it, or they got someone else to dub it.
they got some. I think Billy Wilder just did it in post.
Oh
he
wow.
was yeah.
They had a drag queen come in from Germany to teach them how to be drag queens. And apparently Tony Curtis, took everything that the guy said, and Jack Lemmon was like, "Oh fuck you, I'm not going to do this." And so he didn't, and it shows. I think, Zach, you're right that he doesn't pull it off as well because he didn't want to. He wanted to be pretty bad at it, and it was hysterically funny. And Tony Curtis is much better. Tony Curtis said that he was doing his mom and Grace Kelly. And I thought, wow, that's trippy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're really going for it. And this movie is based on a German film, right? Called like Fanfare der Liebe.
Fanfare of Love.
Yeah, because Billy
Something like that,
Wilder
yeah.
is Austrian, so he was really obviously well versed in European and German cinema. And yeah, I mean, if you look kind of side by side, some of the scenes, I mean, I saw, kind of a little like comparison of some of those scenes, and it's sort of similar. Do you know anything about Fanfare der Liebe, Jim? Have you seen it?
The movie is about just about a couple of musicians who keep trying to find jobs, and in order to do that, they put on blackface. They join an all women's band. They do, I don't know, other silly things to get jobs as musicians. But there was no life or death thing involved in it. There was no running or running away from anything. That's what Billy Wilder and I think Billy Wilder, it was his idea, and then they just ran with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The whole mobster aspect of it, the gangster Chicago St. Valentine's Day Massacre aspect of it, yeah, is different from that. And then of course, this is a very famous piece with Marilyn Monroe. You've got that very famous boop boop be doop scene, which kind of is like the iconic Marilyn Monroe scene. I can't say that know much about Marilyn Monroe as an actress. I just kind of know her as an icon. But watching this a little bit more closely, I mean, she really does nail her scenes. I know that she had a really hard time, performing. Like they did like hundreds of
Right.
takes with her. She was
Yeah,
blowing her lines all
yeah,
over the
she's like
place.
addicted to pills at this point or something. Like she's all high on stuff, is what I heard.
Yeah, she was very troubled. She supposedly got found out she was pregnant during the making of the movie, and so she was worried that she was going to lose the baby and blah 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 blah. She was her husband at the time, Arthur Miller, showed up, and she had this. I don't know if you guys know of this about Paula Strasberg, Lee Strasberg's wife, I think, who was Lee Strasberg was the head of the Actors Studio, right, where Marilyn studied, and so Paula came with her on the shoot. She came with her on a bunch of shoots to a bunch of her movies, and she was her coach, and so she would be on the set all the time. And apparently, Paula kind of drove Billy Wilder a little crazy, and so he sort of had to put her in her place a couple of times. And but she was constantly with her, and kind of protecting her. So she was kind of a piece of work. But again, then I read that the scenes on the beach she did without in 1-2 takes. She was fine.
Hmm.
So go figure. She could be spot on, and she could be not spot on. So, and when she really liked having crowds around. So if they were shooting like out at the beach where there were a lot of crowds around, she was on. And when that didn't happen, when they were stuck in a soundstage and she had to remember it's me, Sugar, she couldn't possibly do it in 83 takes.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like the scenes that they talk about that she couldn't get through is like literally like 3 or 4 words. Like, it's me, Sugar, and she would just say like, it's Sugar, it's
Sugar, it's me.
me.
Me, sugar, it's.
Yeah.
Just try every other combination.
Yeah, and I wanted to play this one clip of Tony Curtis talking about that trouble because it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah, well I did a scene with her in on the yacht where she points up above on the archway and she says, "What is that?"
What is it?
And I got up and I said, "It's a member of the herring family."
A herring. Isn't it amazing how they get those big fish into those little glass jars?
Well, it took us a week and a half to get that one.
What is it?
It's a member of the herring family.
She'd start out and say, "What is that?" "Oh, it's a member of the herring family." "Well, what does it do?" "Well, it's a member of the herring family." It was always, "What is that?" Am I supposed to say that? Or you? At one point, the line was, "What is that?"
What is it?
It's a member of the herring family.
She got so flustered, she finally said, "Tony," with her lips, I said, yes, Marilyn. What's the line? I said, what is it? She says, what is it? I said, that's it. What is it? What is it? It's a member of the herring family. So we had these little frightening experiences.
So funny. It's like a who's on first situation.
Kidding.
What they got on film is, she's amazing. She really is so charismatic, and you can just tell why people everywhere just fell in love with her, not just because she's so beautiful, but she really is like you want to get to know her. She's just like seems like such a fun hang.
Yeah, she's fabulous. This is probably one of her best things, I think. She's really on her game. She knows what she's doing. She knew she was like in love with the camera. I really watched the kissing scene really carefully this time through, and which is long, right? And she's lying down and all of this. She knows exactly what she's doing with that camera. She's love to it. She's no fool that woman. No fool.
Yeah. There's a scene between her and Tony Curtis when she's like chipping off the ice in the train.
Yeah.
And I just think that she delivers some great monologues here. Let's play a little of that too, because I just think that it's so well delivered.
I can't trust myself. I have this thing about saxophone players, especially tenor sax. I don't know what it is, but they just curdle me. All they have to do is play 8 bars of Come to Me, My Melancholy Baby, and my spine turns to custard. I get goose pimply all over, and I come to him.
That's all?
Every time.
You know, I play tenor sax.
But you're a girl, thank goodness.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know what they're like. You fall for them, you really love them. You think this is going to be the biggest thing since the Graf Zeppelin. The next thing you know, they're borrowing money from you. They're spending it on other dames and betting on horses.
You don't say.
Then one morning you wake up, the guy's gone, the saxophone's gone. All that's left behind is a pair of old socks and a tube of toothpaste, all squeezed out. So you pull yourself together. You go on to the next job, the next saxophone player. It's the same thing all over again. You see what I mean? Not very bright.
Brains aren't everything.
I can tell you one thing. It's not going to happen to me again, ever.
The way that she plays with her eyes, like the way that her eyes kind of like droop and she kind of gets like relaxed, and she like really just goes through a range of emotions in that scene. It's really incredible.
She's great.
Yeah, it's something to see her in motion, because you just mostly just see famous pictures of her, and this is the only movie I've ever seen her in. Yeah, she's hot. her body's incredible. It's like, god damn. Some like it hot. Zach likes it hot.
You remember the shot in the beginning of her very first shot when she's walking along next to the train and they shoot the steam at her ass?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great way to introduce her. And Billy Wilder is kind of playing off of the famous scene in 7-Year Itch where the whatever, the subway grate kind of blows up her dress, the iconic scene, which I actually just watched, the 7-Year Itch. I would say of all the Billy Wilder films that I've seen, I like that probably the least. It's very staid. It's very in like one location. It almost feels like a play, whereas like I feel like Billy Wilder to me is just so erratic. You're going different places, and you're being introduced to so many different characters, but Marilyn's great in that. She's fantastic, and I feel like actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, that image of her dress being blown up is actually made more famous by the photos that were taken like while they were shooting that than the actual scene itself. Because if you watch the scene, you don't really get a good view of like the dress being blown up. Whereas like the image that's like kind of culturally in everybody's heads is like where it's like very revealing. Whereas this in the movie, it's just kind of like her legs, and you just kind of see the dress kind of flutter around her ankles and stuff.
Right. You're exactly right. somebody took a still during the thing, and that's what got used, and that's how it happened.
Yeah, when did she pass away? Wasn't too long after Some Like It Hot, right?
No, it was a bit after. She died in the like 64, I want to say, or 60, something like that. Something around in there. It was a few. She did made a couple of made 2 or 3 more movies. She made The Misfits, which is, I think, the best drama thing she ever did. It's quite good, actually, I think. Her husband, Arthur Miller, at the time wrote it kind of for her. Clark Gable's in it, Thelma Ritter, who else? Montgomery Clift, about a bunch of loser Western people, cowboys, cowgirl thing. It's really bleak.
Yeah, she died in 1962 at age 36 from a overdose.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Brittany Murphy thing when we're talking about
Uptown Girls.
yeah, Uptown Girls. Yeah, I don't know, they have they're both got a similar bubbly kind of personality, and yeah, both passed away way too soon. But yeah, it's kind of remind me of that.
Do you guys know Michelle Williams played Marilyn Monroe in a movie with Kenneth Branagh about the making of The Prince and the Showgirl with Laurence Olivier when she made that movie with him. I can't remember the name of the film. It's quite good. I think it's My Week with Marilyn. I think that's
yeah.
And it's quite good because it shows her having Paula Strasberg is in it, and it shows that relationship. And Olivier was trying to direct the movie and be in it at the same time, and it's all about his craziness. And Kenneth Branagh is quite good. It's quite a good little movie, I think, and it gives you a good insight into Marilyn Monroe. And Michelle Williams is superb. She's really great. She always is, but anyway.
Yeah, she looks amazing. I'm just looking at the photo of her playing Marilyn. She's kind of a dead ringer for her. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, really, really terrific. And a lot of the stories about, she always showed up late. I mean, they're all there, and I think they sort of show it very truthfully, not trying to pull any punches, basically.
Right. What are some of your favorite scenes of Some Like It Hot, Jim? Like what are the things that stand out to you?
There's a scene. There's several things that stand out. There's a scene. Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon is all jazzed about Osgood, and he reveals that Osgood has proposed to him, and he keeps playing with these maracas, and then Tony Curtis gives him a straight line, and he has to answer, and he stops, and he answers, then he goes back again. And he keeps flipping from reality of like how I've got to deal with all of this stuff, and his ecstasy at being in love and having somebody in love with him and having been proposed to. And what happens is in the middle of it, he gets asked, so why, Tony Curtis says something like about, well, why do you want to do this? And he stops and he looks at him and says, security. And he goes on with it again. And to me, it's like a perfect example of the film where all the masks go up, they come down, the reality is blurred, and then it's real again. And it's classic to me. And they're fighting, their two personalities are at complete crash with each other, where Tony Curtis is totally in this realistic thing that he's got to be doing, and Jack Lemmon is off in cuckoo land. And it's a perfect piece of comedy, I think. Really, really terrific.
Yeah, I like him in that scene because it has like a little callback to like an earlier moment when he's like saying like, I'm a man, or I'm a boy. I wish I were dead. I'm a boy. And then like that's like a callback to earlier when he was on the train when seeing all these hot women around. And he's like, I'm a girl. And
that's right.
There's a funny little echoing of that moment. Like roles reversed.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that in this film. The typo blood thing is also one of those that it's kind of this running gag. And there's the Goodbye Charlie, that crops up in the massacre and later on at the Seminole Hotel. Lovely writing. The writing is just superb. There's stuff like that all through the movie.
Yeah, what's the other one about, like the one arm or the one-legged the one-legged jockey. Yeah, and I love Beanstalk.
Oh yeah. Oh, the whole. I think the supporting characters in this film are fabulous. The casting is superb. The goons, the gangsters are all real enough, but not quite real, so that they're kind of goofy, but they're real. They kill people. There's real blood in the movie. So it just, yeah, it's just masterful and wonderful. And Sweet Sue, she's terrific. I mean, Pat O'Brien, this great actor, Joey Brown, George Raft. I mean, these are like A-list people doing this stuff, and they were all impeccably cast. Yeah,
Yeah, I really like the side character, one of Spatch's henchmen. He's like played by an actor named Harry Wilson, and he's got kind of like a face like a catcher's mitt or something. It says this
yes,
big broad nose, and he has this incredible deep voice. Whenever he was on screen, I was giggling. I think his first line is like buttermilk or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
Never heard of him.
We got different information.
From who? Toothpick Charlie, maybe?
Toothpick Charlie?
Never heard of
Buttermilk.
So,
It's so funny. That guy is incredible. And he's got a few lines like just kind of sprinkled in throughout, and he just perfect.
Yeah, I was glad that he came back at the end. Yeah, I totally forgot all the mob stuff in this movie.
Me
But
too.
like, yeah, it's like really front loaded at the beginning. Like it takes like 8 or something minutes before you're even introduced to Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis, and like it like starts off with like that cool car chase, which is pretty awesome, and
yeah,
And
kind
a
of
really intense car chase. Like there's some like real heavy crashes and cars spinning out and cops jumping out of the car. It's like a real stunt.
yeah.
real violence, real people getting gunned down. Yeah,
There's a series of chases in the film. They're like little set pieces. They're at the beginning, and then they're all the chasing around at the hotel at the end. He just kind of built it. It's like classic building. You know, they on both ends of it, there's chaos. Really terrific. Really terrific.
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of, forget about the whole, subplot of the mobsters throughout, the middle of the film. It's more of like a romance and a buddy comedy, just very farcical. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I forgot they're running away from these mobsters. That's the whole thing. But they do a good job in the beginning of like, there's a couple different reasons that they want to join this band and dress and drag and get away. It's like they also are down on their luck. They don't have enough money. Like their speakeasy just got, raided. And then they stumble across the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which is kind of ridiculous, that Billy Wilder is like, yeah, let's just like make this also a historic piece. It's like a period piece as well. So yeah, I mean, and I love Spats Columbo is just like such a great like cartoon mobster. And then there's another mobster that's introduced to us at the very end, Little Bonaparte, who's great with his little earpiece, and I love his deliveries on everything.
I agree that I don't think that he could have pulled this off without having it being a life or death situation. Otherwise, the guys could slip out of drag anytime they wanted to. They could just decide, screw this, we don't have to do it. And it forces them to keep up the mask. It forces them to stay in that false play, or to try to play act their way out of it. And that's the source of the comedy, that they're trapped. They can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. I mean, it works great. Apparently Samuel Goldwyn was talking to Billy Wilder right at the very beginning of the writing of the thing. And he asked him what he was writing. And he said, oh, I'm doing this thing about the guys in drag and gangsters. And the guy said, you're never going to mix. You can't mix gangsters and comedy. Can't mix. Not going to happen. And he was totally wrong,
Yeah.
But that's the brilliance about Billy Wilder, is that he was able to mix genres like that. He wasn't afraid to do it, just like Shakespeare, just like all really great writers are not afraid to mix. They grab onto all of it. And that's part of what I think makes the movie kind of timeless, is because it the plot is serious. It's not a joke. It's something that you really have to believe.
Yeah, and I was expecting too that like the whole drag element. I mean, like they do have like a few homophobic lines in there, like where he's like, why would a guy want to marry a guy? You know, like that kind of stuff. Like, but I feel like it actually holds up pretty well. I mean, like it doesn't seem to be like too like afraid of the queerness of it. You know, I think that it's still like still holds up pretty
Yeah,
well.
there's nothing really that made me cringe or anything. And yeah, I guess did this movie like it kind of like helped end the Hays Code, like the transgressiveness of the movie. Yeah, that was like a thing of just like cross-dressing not being allowed in movies. And then like this movie was such a big hit and crowds loved it so much that like it kind of made them realize like maybe that's like an antiquated kind of idea and audiences are ready to kind of accept that kind of stuff. And then I think the Hays Code ended a few years after this movie or something. So, you know, it broke some boundaries that way, which is cool.
I wonder like that it held up so well in terms of like Jack Lemmon kind of falling in love with Osgood, and then you have like the famous line at the end, you know, nobody's perfect, where you know he reveals that he's a man, and Osgood's like, well, you know, whatever, let's do it anyways. And
Yeah,
I think there
that
might be
dumb
a
smirk
good
on his face.
yeah, there might be a good case to make that Osgood is gay. I mean, like none of his like marriages with all of these women have gone well. So he finally found his dream person in Jack Lemmon.
Yeah, Jack Lemmon seems definitely a bit bisexual because, you know, I don't know. He seems like he's having a great time dancing with him and like, you know, he's like pretty giddy about the idea of marrying him, even if it's just to divorce him a little bit later for his money. But I don't know. He goes both ways a little bit. It's pretty progressive for the 50s.
When I see this movie, I don't think about that at all. But that's, I think, our generational differences.
Yeah, I mean, probably not, but I mean, I don't know. I guess like I was just sort of bracing myself for some, you know, 50s, you know, cringiness, and I think that it was like, oh, this is actually pretty progressive. I mean, like even for maybe today's standards, you know.
Do you know about the musical? There's a Broadway musical based on it called Some Like It Hot right now, based on the movie. And the Jack Lemmon character actually is a drag. She finds out that she really likes being a drag queen. That, and so they, which the movie doesn't do. He doesn't go there. He really is doing this, and he's in love with all the attention and everything, but he's also doing it to get the money. So it's kind of murky what his involvement in the whole thing. And but in the musical, they make it very explicit that when he does do this, that he finds his real self and he finds his real partner in Osgood and all that sort of. So they make it very much 21st century, not 1950s Hollywood, you know?
Gotcha. And so when was that adaptation made?
Now it's on Broadway right now. It was like last year, I think it opened.
Oh, okay. So was it written like in the last couple years as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
One of the writers wrote a play called The Inheritance, which was a big, you guys may have heard of it. It was a take on Howard's End, but it's about gay guys going through AIDS and after AIDS.
Did you see the Broadway production?
No, but I got a CD and listened to the music and boned up. I read some reviews and I remembered what it was all about. And I thought, oh yeah. Because they sort of took Some Like It Hot and just made the next revolution, right? They just turned it naturally to where it would go now. And that's fine. It's still, apparently it works great. The music is all very brassy and show busy, as you can imagine. It's not pensive or Stephen Sondheim or anything like that. Sort of real brassy out there.
Yeah, Austin, do you have any favorite scenes or moments that stick out to you?
Well, I love the musical numbers. I really was taken aback by the Running Wild scene where Marilyn is playing the ukulele in the aisles of the train, because again, like it's just showing so much more dynamic performance ability for Marilyn Monroe, other than just, you know, her being a pretty face. Like she was dancing. She's like, playing the ukulele. She's just like, she's a really good performer. I also really, I really love Tony Curtis's second persona as the Shell Oil, like the heir to the Shell Oil fortune with the Cary Grant voice. When I first heard it, Zach, you might know this reference, but in Wayne's World, when Garth hooks up with Kim Basinger and he comes out of the bathroom with the pipe and he's like,
"Good morning, darling. I trust you slept well. I hope I wasn't too much of an animal."
he's totally doing the exact same voice. And I was like, oh, did he get that from Some Like It Hot? But then I realized Tony Curtis got it from Cary Grant. So it's just a Cary Grant voice. But I just I love that voice. It's so very
He just sounds so like stuffy. I don't know. It's
yeah, I don't even know where that voice comes from. It's like I don't know, Northeast, like kind of erudite voice, but it's just very funny.
that scene of them on the boat together, and he just keeps resisting her, and I don't know. There's tons of great lines in that scene, and I love how it's like the camera's like whip panning like back to like Daphne or Jack Lemmon dancing with Osgood, and then like it whip pans back, and I know it's a fun little filmmaking technique there. Yeah, I really like how this movie's shot. It's like a lot of nice wide angle shots. It's nice to just see the actors interacting with each other. It's just kind of simple kind of filmmaking, but everything's very well composed, and it just flows super well. Yeah, like the reason that they shot it in black and white was just because the makeup looks so bad on Lemon and Curtis. Like in color, they look so garish. And like when they're doing screen tests, they're like, well, if we make it black and white, it'll sell better. Even though Marilyn Monroe, I guess she really likes being shot in color, but she still looks great in black and white. And it just gives the movie a kind of a little classier feel for it to be in black and white, even though it's the late 50s when color was all the rage.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I got a question for you guys. Why do you think why do you think it continues to work?
I think that it's just a solidly written script. I mean, you've got a motivation for all of the characters to do what they do, and you've got a lot of action, you've got romance, you've got mobsters and laughs and people falling in love and seduction and, intrigue. I mean, I think that it has a lot of different elements going for it.
Yeah, it kind of appeals to all audiences. For like queer people, for straight people, for people like gangster movies, people like comedies, people like musical numbers. It's got a little bit of everything, and it's very appealing.
Here's one of the reasons I think it works is because it keeps moving the plot forward so adroitly. You don't get stuck on anything anywhere. As soon as you're finished, he moves on. So like when they first go into drag, the first time we see them, what's happened right before is they're freezing outside. They've been blah, 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 blah. They're in trouble. They go into this cigar store, I think it is, and they get on the phone, and Tony Curtis does the voice for the first time, does the Josephine voice over the phone, and they take the job. And there's no going into like how they got dressed up or anything. The next time you see them is their legs walking along the thing. Boom, we're there. And it just slams you forward. And the same thing happens when they finally arrive in Florida. He pulls the brake. Are we in Florida yet? Boom, we're in Florida. And it just speeds ahead. So there's this kind of forward momentum that even when it slows down in the romantic stuff, we're still wondering what's going to happen. Is he ever going to let her say, yes, you're knocking me out? And, it just stretches out and stretches out. It's perfect construction, I think.
Yeah. And it's just one quip after another. It's just joke, 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 joke in every single line. Yeah, and just like fun stuff where like when they first walk on and introduce themselves to the girls and they're like, "You'll be sorry." Like there's like just like little goofy things like that are just like, kind of just keep pulling you back in, or just callbacks like just like the Zowie, like that stuff, like we're just it brings you back to that time, but it also still holds up in a way where you're just like think it's just fun, you know.
Yeah.
Like the party in Seven, party in the Birth Seven, they're all like piling in there. It's like this clown car kind of feel, and Marilyn's just great to look at, you know. It's like that helps too. I mean, she's still just, I mean, you know, just incredible beauty.
Yeah, and incredible outfits.
The guy who did the costumes won the Academy Award for this movie.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that was the only thing it won, right? It got
right, yeah.
nominated for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I love the speakeasy scene. I love that whole scene there with the like, do you want a latte? And they're like winking at him, you know. And there's that one guy who's like during the raid who's like, I want another cup of coffee. I love that guy too. This is very funny. There is a so Sweet Sue does something at some point where she's like, I don't trust these guys. There's something, you know, and she's like pointing at her chest and she's like, something telling me inside, which I think is a callback to the little man in Edward G. Robinson's character in Double Indemnity, where he's like, my little man's telling me something. It's like the conscience, you know, it's like obviously, but I don't know, like I was thinking like, you know, maybe Billy Wilder's kind of creating a universe, you know, like, or a language, you know, like within his films where it's like you have somebody who has like a, you know, just an intuition about things.
There's this right in the scene at the big conference at the end, the gangster conference, right? George Raft said one of his guys says something to him, and he picks up a grapefruit with a cherry in it, and he pulls back and he goes, "Why I." Something like this, which is right out of Scarface, where Jimmy Cagney puts the thing. So I think he's self-consciously referencing stuff all the way through the movie, and we're just not getting quite all of it. You know, the Edward G. Robinson's son plays the guy who guns down George Raft at the end, and when he first sees him, he's flipping a coin, if you recall.
Yeah,
one of Jed Robinson's deals, and Raft makes a comment about it. Who taught you to do that, or something like that? I don't know. So
yeah, I saw that. It's Edward G. Robinson Jr.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, oh, is Edward G in this? But no, I guess I didn't realize that was his son. I love that character too, where he's like flipping the coin. It's so like, I don't know, it's just cartoonish. It's like when you watch these things, it's like, you know, we know it from Looney Tunes, you know, but it's like, no, there was a representation in film where people really did talk and act like that.
Yeah, I love the mobster busting out of the birthday cake with a machine gun, mowing the whole party down. That's an iconic image.
Yeah, and there are some really great, like you were talking, Zach, about the cinematography. There's one really great shot that I'm not really sure how they did it, but when he notices that the mobsters are in the hotel in the mirror, when Jack Lemmon is like looking at the mirror and you like see that perfect shot in like in the round little mirror, I thought that was a really great, like innovative shot even for that time. And another thing that I'll note too is Marilyn really sells her brokenheartedness too when Tony Curtis's character says like, oh, I won't be able to see you, and here's a bracelet and some flowers, and when she comes into the room looking for bourbon, I mean, like she just really like her eyes, you know, like just like welling up on the phone, and the way that she just sells her heartbreak, you really feel for her.
Yeah, and that last ballad song that she does too, it's like not believing in love anymore, or something like that. She's really selling the emotion of that song as well.
Close-ups of her and Tony Curtis during that song, or right at the end of it, which seal the deal that you can see, wow, they are in love. I never noticed it before, but I really bought it this time. It's like, wow, he really cares for her and she really is hurt by him. And that it was a wonderful touch.
Yeah, and that she doesn't really care that he was dressing in drag. He's not the Shell Oil person. She just kind of was like, whatever. Like, whoever you are, I love you.
Yeah, it's very sweet. That whole thing is very sweet, very sweet. One of the reasons I want to go back to some because I forgot to say this. One of the reasons I like Tony Curtis's performance so much is because he juggles three personas, and that's part of what makes it work. Is that he's got to be himself, Joe, the kind of sleazy, gambler guy, womanizer. Then he's got to be
saxophone player,
the saxophone player, and then he's got to be his girl. What's her name? Geraldine? No,
Josephine.
Joseph. And then he's got to be the Shell Oil guy, Shell Jr. And that's juggling those three things is part of what makes the comedy, I think, still so valid. It's just timeless. This masking, unmasking, unmasking, and you never, who is he? And so it works fabulously. It just really tickles me to watch him do it. I think he's really good. And I think he got kind of the short shrift, like I said earlier. I don't think he gets quite the credit that he deserves for pulling that off in this movie.
Yeah, I think I liked him a little bit more than Jack Lemmon's character. I mean, Jack Lemmon's great, obviously, but yeah, he's juggling a lot, like you're saying. And
yeah.
I just love that voice he's doing when he's the Shell Jr. He's like, terribly Zowie.
Yeah, Jack Lemmon's like cackling laugh and like his like sort of like over giddiness too is a little irritating. It's just like a little like
his laugh kind of reminded me of your laugh, Austin. It's like a little bit of Austin in that laugh.
Okay, all right. I'll take it.
You have a great laugh, Austin. Don't feel self-conscious about it.
Well, I find it irritating apparently.
Something about that because I think the kind of wackiness that Jack Lemmon does is exactly perfect because he takes it out of this kind of norm level and blows the top off of it so that he becomes outrageous. And we see how far he can go in believing this and loving what's happening to him. It's perfect. It's just perfect. And then the opposite side is Tony Curtis, who's going through this real deeply felt love thing that he doesn't understand and doesn't really get, but he's there. And so you've got these two opposites that are pulling on these guys, and it's the middle of their friendship, and then they get caught and they're going to die. And what could be more perfect?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like that the Jack Lemmon character kind of steps aside. Like he doesn't like once he sees that he's got kind of like a thing going with, or that Tony Curtis has a thing going with Marilyn Monroe. He's not consumed by jealousy. He's like kind of like steps aside and like let that unfold and even covers for him. It's like, all right, you can go off to the yacht and I'll distract the Osgood and let this dance. Like he's being a great wingman for him. And I like that he's not just like first, consumed with jealousy. Yeah, it takes him a while, but
yeah,
I like that he gets out of that.
I was a little like, I was like, why are you trying to like blow it here? Like when he's like, yeah, let's go up to the room and see. I mean, it would blow both of their cover. Like when he's in the bathtub, like magically. Like why was he doing that? Like it was kind of a jerk thing to do. But
I think that just shows how far he's willing to go to get even with his friend. That's what I mean about that. They're masked, but then underneath it is this friendship thing that they're still just kind of battling out. That we beginning when he dumped the overcoats and lousy bets and all that kind of thing. Oh, I'll show him. Now I'll show him.
Grease lightning.
Yeah, right.
Is I guess this script they only wrote 60 pages of it. So it was only like half written when they started shooting it, and then they just kind of wrote as they shot as they went along. Which I think is pretty interesting considering how well constructed it is. The reception of this movie, I mean, so Jim, you were there when it first premiered.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't at the premiere and I was too young. I didn't know what was going on. My parents just took me to see a movie.
Right, but I mean, during that first run, you were there.
Yeah, the first run, yeah.
Because I heard that the first sneak preview went terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Like, nobody liked it. It was nobody laughed. But then once it opened, it was just a huge hit, and like you said, just everyone was in hysterics.
Right. It was, you're right. And there were some people that kind of didn't know what to do with it. And I think, to us, the cross-dressing thing is kind of like, so what? Big deal. It's funny and ha ha ha. But I think at the time, it was not that way. There was still a little pretty daring. The fact that it was Billy Wilder made it kind of okay for the actors, at least. And everybody thought, well, if it's Billy Wilder, it's got to be good. But I think for everybody else, it was sort of like, huh, what is this? And the mixing of the genres, that you have this gangster movie with, cross-dressing. What's that all about? And now it just seems like perfect. So it's like, well, what do you mean you didn't understand?
Mhm. And another thing about Billy Wilder that I think is so incredible, that kind of limited people's ability to give him notes, was that he would basically cut the film in camera, so that there was very little options for an editor to, change this or get rid of that. It was like, someone would be in the middle of the line and he would just say, like, cut it right there. So that, like, they had to piece each angle exactly how he saw it in his head. So, I mean, that's just another testament to his brilliance. Just that's really amazing.
Even though he didn't have a script, he knew what it was going to look like, and he knew where it was going. He's sharp. He's really good.
Yeah. I mean, incredible. And yeah, especially, I mean, just that, he was just this guy who, was basically escaping fascism and came to America because of the war. And
Where was he living?
he was Austrian.
Okay.
And so, Hitler and Nazis and fascism was creeping in. I think he moved to Paris for a little bit, and then eventually moved to America, where he like worked on like Howard Hughes films, and just kind of was just kind of there in the background in his 20s, and then started writing, and then eventually directing, and obviously to huge success. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, amazing that, one of the great American filmmakers, who's like, got several bullets on our top 100 films of all time, isn't even from here.
Yeah. And you guys, you're not mentioning I.A. Diamond very much, but he was a real essential piece of all of this.
Oh yeah. Tell us about him.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. He was kind of a Billy Wilder had he was the front man basically. But I.A. Diamond came up with The Last Line, came up with a lot of stuff. And I think that it seems like they were a perfect writing pair. And I think I.A. Diamond ended up producing as time went on. They did 8 or 10 films. Austin, do you have the stats on that?
Yeah, I know that they were like a writing duo. I don't know how many of the films that he worked on with him, but let's see. He did The Apartment, 1, 2, 3, Fedora, Avanti, Something Like It Hot, obviously. Yeah, so a good number of the Kiss Me Stupid, like kind of the later stuff. The two of them, like more of the comedy farcical stuff was him and IAL.
Yeah, I just heard that like the final line, the nobody's perfect line, that was just like a placeholder line in the script. Like they're like, yeah, we'll figure out something funnier than that. And then they ended up not figuring out anything better. And then turns out to be like one of the most iconic lines to end a movie ever. It's just kind of funny to think about that, like them not thinking that that was like a good blow line at all. But it's perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect. It's great. Great final line.
Yeah. I last year the Music Box Theater did this series of Billy Wilder matinee films, where I saw Ace in the Hole there, which is another incredible Billy Wilder film. Really just again just immaculately constructed film. And the title of this series was Nobody's Perfect. And like they did like 2 Some Like It Hot showings in 35 millimeter, and they were just all sold out immediately. So it's still bringing in audiences.
Should we do our final thoughts, or how are you guys feeling?
Sure. Jim, you're our guest, so do you want to give us your final thoughts?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for letting me come on, and thanks for talking about Some Like It Hot. I do think that it is a perfect film. I'm an unabashed fan. And anytime that I can talk about it and learn more about it, I'm totally happy to do so. I also want to say that it's really wonderful to talk about Billy Wilder and what a great director and artist he was. And his contribution to film, I think, was considerable. So it's great. I think that's what I'm walking away with.
Yeah, it was great to revisit this classic. It was only my second time watching it, but yeah, I feel like I got to appreciate it even more than when I first saw it back in high school. Yeah, it does make me want to go back and watch more Billy Wilder movies. He's one of our filmmaking masters, and I feel like I've only seen like the obvious ones, but yeah, this was a super fun rewatch. I really love the line when they're at Shell Jr. and Sugar Cane are out on the boat together, and she says, "I used to sell kisses for the milk fund." It's just like I was like, "What does that mean?" I had so many questions. Like he references later. He's like, "How much do I owe the milk fund so far?" I don't know. I love that exchange, and so many great little moments like that. Marilyn Monroe is incredible. It's funny to think of that she'd actually get kicked out of the group for drinking out of her flask, because when she's clearly like the star of the whole band, it's like they're not getting rid of her. She's the whole show.
And she's the
She's the
moneymaker.
star. But yeah, there's just so many fun dynamics in this movie, and yeah, it's a lot of fun to talk about it too.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of covered it, but I just think that it's an incredible film. Billy Wilder's a master. I love just breaking down his films because he's just so smart about how he constructs his films and how he writes them and directs them. It's just every single element is pitch perfect. And like I said earlier, I would say that, and not to be the fuzzy end of the lollipop here, but I am more of a fan of his dramatic stuff. But I think in terms of the comedies that I've seen of his, I think this is probably my favorite. And yeah, I mean, it's a screwball masterpiece. I mean, and Marilyn Monroe, if you want to, kind of really dive into her performances, I think if you want to get a good sense of what Jack Lemmon became famous for, or learn about Tony Curtis, or just, filmmaking in the 50s in general, I mean, this is just, the go-to film.
Buttermilk.
Zowie.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I also like that line of saying, "If I was a girl, which I am, I'd be careful." It's like all the little times he's catching himself
Yeah.
saying the wrong thing.
I also never knew that the stand-up bass was known as the bull fiddle.
Yeah.
They're talking about the bull fiddle a lot. There's the Jello on Springs line. That's a good one. Just throw a few more out there.
Well, I guess something like it hot. Me, I prefer classical.
Really hot. Jim, thank you so much for your time. This has been so lovely. I love talking to you anytime. And you're a part of my family, but now you're part of the Film with family. And we're happy to have you. Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Love you very much.
Yeah, it's great
Aloha.
to meet you.
Yeah,
Aloha.
And we got to thank our listeners as well. Thanks for listening to this episode of Film with Family. You can always catch us, follow us on Film with Family on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Check us out there.
Yep. And if you'd like to let us know what your favorite Billy Wilder film is, or your favorite line from Some Like It Hot, you can email us at filmwithfamilypodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we are also on Patreon at Film with Family. Subscribe to us for $1.99 a month, and you get a bonus episode every month.
I think Sound of Music is next with my mom. But
yeah, we're covering the classics on Film with Family.
Yeah.
And join us in 2 weeks when we will be finishing our trifecta of timeless tomfoolery with Monty Python's The Search for the Holy Grail.
And we love the movies.
And we love our family.
Aloha, Jim.
Aloha, guys.
Aloha.